Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. It's Friday night. We know it's time for the Creative Cranium. I've got a terrific panel of guests tonight, and we're going to be doing our year-end retrospective. What we like to do every year is to review our goals, and in particular, what we're going to try in 2025. Before we drive right in, let's introduce our guests here. We'll take a quick spin around the room and tell us who you are and what you're mostly known for. Doc, let's start with you.
Which doc?
Yeah, there's Doc.
You got Doc in your name, so or no, you got two doctors. Yeah, that's right. Doc Blaylock.
I'm a writer and artist. I've been making art professionally I was doing the math this morning, 48 years.
Wow.
And just saying that out loud caused my back to hurt. In recent times, I'm the writer and artist behind the Pariah Saga and behind the Jake Bishop stories. The current one funding is Jake Bishop in A Damn Dirty Thing. It's a supernatural noir.
Nice. That's a cool title too. And also you do some podcasting as well, correct?
I do. I have a YouTube channel called Doc's Coffee Shop every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern right here on the YouTube.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, Doc.
Thank you. Thank you, Timothy.
Hey, Dan Barlow, welcome back, sir. It's great to have you. Can you please tell the viewers who you are and what you're mostly known for?
Yeah, definitely. Good to be back. I'm Dan Barlow. I'm a writer and artist. I started Mind Grind Comics. I'm known for mostly the main title is The Devil's Contract. And I've been doing art for small press and indie comics, man, probably at least since 99.
Nice. Welcome and thanks for coming, Dan.
Thanks.
Martheus Wade, great to see you again. We met earlier on one of the other podcasts. Tell us who you are and what you're mostly known for.
My name is Martheus Wade, and I am illustrator and graphic designer. Work with some companies. I worked with Hasbro and with IDW, and a little bit of Image. And then I've been doing I'm most known for my own comic book, my graphic novel series, Shinobi Ninja Princess and Jetta Tales of the Toshigawa. And both of those, Jetta Tales of the Toshigawa, actually, I've been doing that. Next year will be 25 years. So
wow, very impressive.
Yeah, so we're going to be celebrating that all next year. Doing some pretty big, hopefully some pretty big things. So yeah.
That's great. Congratulations. And thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you, man. It was a blast last time. So
yeah, this is going to be a good one tonight.
Yeah.
So Dr. Rick Olson, man, always a pleasure to see you. We met over on Ed Davis podcast, right?
I was thinking it was Dan Persimmon.
I don't recognize that name. I know Dash Hooper, if it was him.
Well, I guess we're having too much fun if we got to figure out how we met.
We're all in the same circles, but I know who you are. But tell the viewers who you are and what you're known for.
Well, hopefully I know who I am too. Doctor turned author, and I write 1930s Nick Still, like the German chainsaw Still. 1930s Peoria, Illinois, which is whiskey capital of the world, burlesque vaudeville, and the infamous Shelton Gang. So it's kind of a film noir, Philip Marlowe, Mike Hammer, Sam Spade, lots of fun. And then a modern hero, Scotland, U.S. Border Patrol agent, set about 10 years in the future. So I have writing two totally different characters, and there's a young adult franchise coming off the Scotland series. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming, Doc. Other Doc.
Doc.
Yeah. Robbie J. Atkinson, welcome to the show. I'm meeting you for the first time, so I'm looking forward to this. Can you please tell the viewers who you are and what you're mostly known for?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's
a pleasure to be here. And honestly, man, I feel so like ecstatic to be in the presence of so many other, just like great and seasoned writers. Honestly, hearing 25 years and 10 years and all of this, because this is my first year writing my manga series named The Seventh Kingdom, a sci-fi fantasy series. But I'm a filmmaker by trade, so I'm a writer and director, and I'm the owner of RPX Media Production, a hybrid media production company based here in Atlanta.
Oh, nice. Cool. Well, that sounds terrific. I can't wait to hear more about that. And also, you're the one person, you have an agent, which is how I met you through Jeff, right? Or at least he reps your podcast appearances.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, welcome. I'm always glad to meet his clients. He's got some great clients. And he's a writer too.
Mm. Mhm, mhm.
Well,
So I've heard.
yeah. So I was going to say that's a smart thing to have somebody to arrange those kind of appearances for you. And that's the kind of thing we're going to talk about, right? So let's dive right in. I've got to make changes in 2025. You heard me telling Doc earlier backstage, look, I've got to change a couple of things the way I do it. The first thing is you got publishing, right? The way publishing is headed. Start with that question. Doc, people basically have two models. You can either self-publish your book through crowdfunding source, or you can try and pitch it to the Diamond catalog and try and comic stores that way. What does your marketing strategy, excuse me, what does your publishing strategy look like for 2025?
And I assume you're talking to me.
Yeah.
I was going to let you know you really went underwater on us for a second there. I
Yes.
Yeah.
couldn't hear you. You're back now.
Okay.
You're good and loud and clear. I'm going to keep going as I have done. I have a publisher, Dark Gift Comics, Anthony Romano, uh, who does all the nuts and bolts of it, freeing me up to just be the creative. So I'm the writer and artist on all my books, and I leave the publishing to him. Now we do uh, publish through crowdfunding, and we have moved that exclusively to fund my comic because of some of the kind of less than appealing practices of the big two. So
Right. Right. Do you like Fund My Comic?
love it, love it, I
Hmm.
love it.
Well, I'd like to hear more about that then too. Dan, how about you? 2025 publishing. Are you going to go the crowdfunding route? Are you going to try to get into comic stores?
You know what? I'm just going to stick to the crowdfunding route right now. I have a small but loyal fan base, very small. But what I do is just try to hit the local comic book shops with whatever copies I have left over of my books and any local shows, and trying to see if I can build my audience that way.
That's a good way to do it. Marthias, how about you? I know your deal's a little different because you got some stuff in comic stores now, right?
Yes, but next year I know in 2025 I'm trying to be able to do both. I'm going to be doing some crowdfunding because I want to do it's 25 years of the book and I want to be able to do something a little bit more substantial. So I want to do a hardcover book with all the existing graphic novels that we have, as well as some of the old stuff when I first started from college, in there as well, because I love being able to not only teach a little bit, but also be able to show my progression. Because like a lot of people right now, they come along and they say, "Oh, you just did it." My son is like big like that. They're, you know, the new age is coming along. And they just like they want things real quick, but they don't see that you've been working on this for like years. So I want people to understand and feel the actual longevity that you got to have to be able to kind of sustain. It's not going to be something that's going to be quick, fast, and in a hurry. So in order to be able to do that, I'm going to have to crowdfund that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Plus, I want to be able to as an incentive. I want to be able to do an action figure as well. I got the action figure sculpt and stuff completely made. So maybe as a little bit of incentive, as a stretch goal or something like that, I can put that in there too.
That's hot right now too, the action figures.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Dr. Richard Olson, how about you? What's your plan, first of all, for 2025? What are you going to release and how are you going to do it?
Well, I definitely have a vision plan for each year, and I've done it for 3 years in a row. But you guys do something. I will have a second border agent book release called South of the Border. It's probably going to publisher in 2 or 3 weeks. And his nephew Zach and Zoe are teens, and they do young adult stories. So I have a Mystery Among the Tree ready to go. I'm kind of playing the hybrid role. I have a traditional publisher for Nick Still PI and the border agent, but I'm releasing a young adult series as a indie, kind of a hybrid. I can get in schools easy. I get it to young people easy. The kids jokingly call me Dr. Batman. And then I'm in the Bat Cave. If I turn on the lights, you see some pretty wild stuff back there. The young adult story is going to be lots of fun and good. And then the third Nick Still is Peoria versus Hollywood. That's at the publisher for editing now. So it's 3 books coming out. And I tried to. I have a traditional publisher, so they do lots of YouTubes and posts and stuff. But I try to very organically be on like a local news channel, a podcast. I gave a talk, so I try to do 3 or 4 of those a month, and then
I perked up when you said local news channel. Give us a tip. How do you get on the local news channel?
well, Channel 25 NBC has me on probably every other month. Some of that's connections. You can actually email some of these newspapers or actually news channels, but 2 of the channels have me on fairly regularly, and NBC is number 1 here, so it's quite a pleasure to talk my 5 to 7 minutes every month or so there. But some of it's like even referral. If you know business owners, they advertise. So I, being a doctor, some of my business owners said, "Well, I know somebody at this TV station. I know somebody at this TV station." So that kind of got me into the door through them because they spend money for advertising, so it's a warm contact. So it's been real good for me.
Nice.
So
It does sound. Good luck with that plan.
Thank you.
Let's move over to Robbie J. Atkinson. Robbie, so in 2025, this is next year now, what are you releasing? What are you publishing? And what's your strategy look like?
Yes. So this year of 2024 has really just been garnering our fan base for the Seventh Kingdom. And so my goal for next year really is to release the first chapter and start sending out the physical copies. We have a bit of a dual approach here in that I'm having the online book available for people who are into a more online experience for their manga series. And then I have a tactile experience for those who pre-order during a certain window, a concept that we came up with. Basically, during a certain time period, people can pre-order the manga and they'll get it sent in specialized packaging with a selection of like stickers, posters, collectibles, things that people tend to
nice.
like.
Sure,
Thank you.
And what is, can I ask, when you do it's like a pre-order type thing or?
Yes, so far we have 115 pre-orders. So
oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah, and so how are you cultivating those people? How are you like getting the names?
So some of this has been a mixture of people from Indiegogo. Some of this has been TikTok. We've had people who placed orders on TikTok. Some of them have been from conventions and vendor events that I went to in person. In addition to just having the merchandise, that is also what you offer and sell. And people essentially place their order, you collect their information, and you let them know when it's ready and you ship it out to them.
I kind of like that one. Yeah, that's a great idea. And I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have a little more?
Honestly, I mean, really, this has been more so a self-published avenue in the sense of like, it is my book, it's my company, and so I'm going through the motions of navigating the publishing process. And I'm looking for other avenues to branch out more, but really I'm looking to get the digital and then the physical book. And we already have consignment opportunities lined up around Atlanta, so we've got a lot lined up.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. So let's move over to the next part, which is the marketing. I want to hear a little bit about how we're doing it. And first off, Doc Blaylock, and is my audio okay now?
Yeah, you're good.
I might have been talking too excitedly before. I got my new microphone.
Nice Christmas present.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit earlier about the marketing, right? Like there's so many steps that we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So for 2025, Doc, what are some things you're going to try that are new for 2025?
So Anthony has now just begun. He did the first one last month, hitting the actual the convention circuits. So we're going to be getting my studio is Rampart Studios. We're going to be getting Rampart out at several conventions for 2025. That's new territory for us. It's been all online. So it was productive. The very first one he went to was just a little bitty one up in Garden State, New Jersey, Garden State.
Oh, close to me.
Yeah. And made some good contacts there, made some sales, got a little pocket money out of it, and was like, okay, well, that's interesting. You were able to cover the cost of getting in. You made a little money. And that
now, in this case,
good.
Is your publishers going to the convention, or do you go, or how do you do it?
He'll go to the ones up in his area. I'll try to cover the ones here in the Southeast. I'm a retired old person, so I don't like to travel a whole lot, but I do get out. So yeah, someone had mentioned the Mid-South Comic Con before the show. I think Martheus did. I'll probably hit Mid-South. There's one down in Savannah. I'll probably hit it. I don't think Dragon Con's a thing anymore, is it, Robbie?
Oh yes, it is. It's quite popular.
Dragon Con still exists? Okay, well,
Hmm.
I'll go. I went to Dragon Con in '94 or '5, and I remember it was fun, but it smelled like foot and ass for days. It was just,
All that sulfur.
Now, is Dragon Con in Atlanta?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they, if I remember, correct me if I'm wrong. I guess Robbie knows it. They have a lot of music too, right? Dragon Con, isn't it like bands too, or no?
They have a little bit of everything now. They have musical artists who perform. They tend to have like literally just about everything. So music, yes. It depends on when you go and where you go.
Right.
Well, let's move over to Dan. And really, the question, you can talk about your convention schedule if you want. But really, what I want to know, Dan, is additional things that maybe we haven't tried. Like, do you have anything? Let me give a for instance. One of mine, I'm seriously considering renting a billboard alongside the highway. Something that
Yeah.
nobody has done. Not because I'm sure it will work, but just because I want to try something different. What, Dan? What do you want to try that's different
Yeah,
in
I have some
advertising?
thoughts on that. I thought about the billboard approach. There is, I would do it if I had a book that had local ties. There is a nonfiction story I wanted to do about the city I live in, Dayton, Ohio, because home of the Wright brothers. A lot of stuff, a lot of inventions came from Dayton, and I wanted to do a series of short stories. So a book like that, I think, would be ideal to have on a billboard, around town on a digital billboard, because I think you can rent space for like $300 to $400 a week on some of these digital billboards. I mean, for the price what it costs to get a table for a weekend at a con, I mean, you really,
They're close.
Yeah,
The
so-
price is close. Yeah.
I think if you have something with local ties, someone's driving down the road on the way to work and they look up at that billboard and they say, "Oh, a comic about Dayton. Huh, I live in Dayton. It might be kind of cool. Oh, you know what? Here's the title. Here's the comic book shop, where they're going to be at on a Saturday. May I'll grab the family, grab the kids, and go to that." That was my thought about a billboard. If I ever get to that point, I'd like to. This year, I know one of the books I want to do, and I haven't said it yet, but except on social media, I'm doing a short story on Buck Rogers for an anthology.
Ooh,
Ah, cool.
And
awesome.
so I started working on that this week, and that would be the first story I would like to take to the library. I've talked to the local library, and then not only just to showcase the story in the book, but I've been approached about possibly teaching a comic book class. So that might be something to do with young artists, comic
Yeah,
book
and
creators.
I like it because it's something different, right? That's I think we
Right.
can all agree we got to try something that is different.
Right, and try to incorporate and bring in young readers. My wife's a teacher in an elementary school, and if I did something kid related, I'm sure the school would let me come in there. You print up 100 copies or so, and just hand them out like promotion, and see what happens. There's a couple of thoughts on just getting the word out. So
I like that idea.
other
too.
than the convention circuit.
Sure. So let's move this over to Martheus. Martheus, same question for you, right? Essentially, really advertising is what I mean in this case, but I don't know too much about what you do currently. So
Right.
maybe if you could answer, like, what's something different that you're going to try that you're not doing currently, Martheus?
Something different that I'm going to try that I don't want to say that I haven't been doing currently. I just haven't focused on it a lot is getting back into schools. So a lot of I have a book that is kid friendly. The first kid friendly book that I did, which was Shinobi Ninja Princess, the first volume of it came out in Scholastic. And the cool thing about that was that at the time I was being published by Action Lab, and I don't know if you guys have been.
Oh, nice. Sure, I know Action Lab.
Yeah, but
Real
Action
quick,
Lab,
do you mind if I ask?
yeah,
I'm sorry to put you off the track, but I have an Action Lab question. Do you mind?
yeah. No, go ahead.
Okay, first, what was it like dealing with Action Lab, and would you recommend them to other creators?
No.
Oh boy.
Emphatic no, do not.
I'm glad I asked. I'm glad I asked.
The reason why okay, so I got involved with Action Lab because of friends. I used to be a frequent visitor of Comic Geeks forums. I used to be on Comic Geek Speak, every once in a while, just talking about my books and stuff like that, because I was doing, I was really doing like the down and dirty self-publishing thing. Like I started, and I don't mean to take up a lot of time, but I started self-publishing by essentially for real printing all of my stuff out on an inkjet printer and binding the book in plastic coil and selling it that way. And my first book that I actually like went to a printer and had it printed myself. I went to San Diego Comic-Con that first year and I was selling there. So I've been kind of like doing different stuff all over the place for a while. But through those forums, I came into contact with friends, and my friends actually, some of them started a company, and that company was Action Lab. So I jumped. So I actually waited my time because I was doing my own thing. So I was like, I'm just gonna do my own thing. I'm good. But then I was like, man, I was talking to my friends. I was like, let me see if I can pitch something, and I pitched Shinobi Ninja Princess. Came out with the book. It did really well with kids, but I had a very big marketing problem with Action Lab because they wanted to market it towards general comic book audiences. And I knew that my book was for kids. Like if you take that to a comic book place, it's a manga inspired book about teenage ninjas fighting monsters. So it's kind of like, I was like, unless that's in a manga type format, which it wasn't, and it's in Barnes and Noble or something like that, or in the manga section of the comic book in a shop,
right,
not going to do well. You know what I mean? Okay. And the first couple of books, the first book, it did well. The second book didn't do well. And the reason why was because a lot of us, older people were going frequenting the comic book shops. But when Scholastic saw it, and Scholastic was like, man, that's cool. I want to put that in the agent was like, I want to put that in the schools. And it did gangbusters in the schools. It did really well. That was the only check that I got from Action Lab, period, across the board. They never paid me at all, except for that book. And the reason why they paid me is because the check came from Scholastic, and it was a good amount of money. So when I saw that, I was like, man, our audience is not really in the comic book stores. Like I love being in the comic book stores. I love going in every Wednesday, picking up my comic and saying, hey, that's my book right there. But we had a kid friendly book. So ever since then, I was like, man, I'm going to try to get back into the school. And that's kind of how we've been doing it. Last year we launched earlier this year, we launched some vending machines. Me and a partner launched some vending machines in 5 different schools around the area, and they all have our books in them.
I saw that online. I thought that was a great idea.
And it was so cool. I got a chance to wrap it and do the artwork on the whole vending machine. It was really, really cool. We're hoping to do more of that in some more schools around the area as incentives for kids to be able to read. So the schools buy the books, and then the library controls the token system that goes with the books. And in order for kids to be able to get the books, they have to get good grades. They have to be able to get good attendance and very good discipline. So those 3 things, I think every time they want to be rewarded or something special happens, they get a token. They get 2 tokens, and they can go and buy a book, get a book.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And I didn't mean to get too far off the track with Action Lab, but I did want to know. So thank you for your honesty.
No, that's another whole story.
Yeah, that's almost enough for a whole episode. I probably
Yeah.
shouldn't have brought that up.
Don't do it. Just take over.
Don't do
Yeah,
it.
But hey, that's the word on the street, right? Publishers
Yeah.
are not necessarily the best to deal with for
Nah,
content creators.
nah.
Let's move this over to Dr. Richard Olson. So, Dr. Richard Olson, right? Same question for you. Do you, well, first of all, what kind of advertising are you doing now? And what's something that's going to change for 25?
Well, the fortunate part about having a publisher, Bull Venture Press, is they do the Facebook ads and the IGs and the multiple postings, and so I mean I do a little bit organically just to make it personal. So that's a load off my plate. But honestly, those are what I call minimal results on Facebook and IG and stuff like that. Conventions is always one of the bread and butter ones. But I had a really lightning strike twice. Here's something: join historical societies or join societies. Peoria is world famous whiskey capital of the world, home of burlesque and vaudeville. If it plays in Peoria, it plays anywhere. Or the original Sin City. So Nick Steele, my character, is a natural for attraction in town, and smart enough for the publisher was to have the second book called Peoria Night. So he's like, "Oh, it's from Peoria, yeah." So I'm going to read that. So this is a weird one. I joined the Gentleman Cigar Society, and I have my cigar once a month. Lots of affluent people, and one of them happened to own a castle, for real.
Wow.
And he let me put kind of a facsimile of him in the book, Dr. Lars Svensson, and I have a Halloween party at a castle. He has antique cars. My hero drives a Packard 8. And I can do book signings there. He's a fan. I mean, that was like a monster home run. And is everybody old enough here to know Zorro?
Yeah, sure.
The author of Zorro graduated Chillicothe, Illinois High School in 1901. And that's 15 miles from my home. So there's a Chillicothe Historical Society.
Oh, wow.
So I joined that. So now I can give free book signings at the Zorro Museum. I can advertise Zorro. I even have a story in the new collection of Zorro stories called Outfoxed by a Woman. So I've literally had 2 lotteries just joining historical societies. And then another one at universities is quite often they have an older group of learners. And there's different names at different universities, but our local university has a branch people 60 on up. And since I'm a historian now, I can speak at those. And they all buy books too. So I've really been blessed a couple ways like that. So that's a different way of marketing societies. Speaking at university.
Those are some good ones. I'm struck by by the way, some great answers so far. And I'm struck by both work. One goes really far one way. You got Martheus going into the school and capturing the younger, and then Dr. Richard Olson going really far the other way and capturing the older. Hey, as long as it works, these are great ideas. Let's turn this over to Robbie J. Atkinson. We're going to hear about some things that you did for advertising. You mentioned it was kind of your first year, so if you haven't done too much yet, that's okay. But give us a sense of what 2025 will look like and what you might try for advertising.
Well, for this year, we've done quite a bit of advertising. Most of it has been on TikTok, on Instagram, and across Facebook as well. I actually sought to connect with manga and anime clubs across platforms like Discord. Essentially letting them know about my series. I got featured on a number of podcasts for people who were part of those. And that's literally a platform that will have up to 100 to 1,000 people on it. And you advertise your book, and then you have people who will go and order it because they like what they see. TikTok has actually been a very good resource. A number of our orders this year have come in from TikTok as well.
And can I ask, how do you do your TikTok? Is it like the name of your company? Is it your name personally, your book? How is it structured?
The book itself. And I mean, I went and looked at people who had TikTok accounts dedicated to selling their books. And I mean, they talked about why you want to read my book. What information are you selling? Giving people little tidbits about the story to keep them enticed and make them want to learn more. Next year, I'm going to look into, funny enough, I heard a mention of billboard advertising. There's a website called Blip Billboards, and I'm actually going to be looking into that. We had looked into advertising in some target areas because I actually took a business class for the operation of this book in terms of getting it to be commercially successful and knowing your target audience and knowing where they are. So in my case for manga, going to shopping centers, going to places like Journeys, going to arcade areas, going to things like that, and basically putting up billboards or putting up elevator ads, things like that. That was something that I was looking into. I've already gotten quotes for. And then even next year, talking about schools, I'm looking into doing some career day events in addition to our conventions, just to
Oh,
get kind of a
nice.
younger audience as well. So
Those are some great ideas, Robbie. Thanks for sharing those. And
So
when you
everybody had
mentioned,
great
That's why I
stuff
did
to
it in the
say
light.
except me.
hey, well, the fact is, it kind of like takes some kind of combination of all of these, is what I sense. There was two that didn't get mentioned, so I'm just going to touch on them real quick. Which is one, you can sometimes do activities and things for libraries,
Hmm. I'm
and
actually
one,
Absolutely.
doing that. I'm actually going to be doing that next year. Going to, I did a couple of seminars about manga illustration, and the correlation between manga illustration and comic book illustration and how they
right.
kind of can cross, um, and the differences. You know what I mean? The age differences is a big thing. But I did that for a talk for the library, um, and I actually I won an award for our local library too, which was kind of cool. So I'm doing a lot of stuff with the library. That stuff works out, especially if your library does anything related to Free Comic Book Day. That's
Well,
a
and you'll hope is that they will carry the book. And the second one is and I just found out about this one, and this might be out of my price range, but it's something to consider. Comic conventions take sponsors, the same as if it was Under Armour or whoever. You could sponsor Artist Alley. And I have been thinking to myself, and I'm just thinking out loud. Remember, I don't know the answer. I'm thinking, what if?
Mhm.
In my case, it's a studio, right? Earth Dog Studios. But instead of me being at the convention, maybe it's Earth Dog Studios presents Artist Alley. Your name is on every pylon and on the flyer. It might be better than having a booth.
San
Yeah.
Diego Comic Con used to do that with their that big book that they have. You could actually buy a page in there and just draw that page out, man, with an ad. And I
Yeah.
did that one year, and it was really like that was the year. It was expensive, but that was I will actually say that the turn time of that and being able to the return of those was really really good. You know what I mean? And my thing is, I'm willing to spend a little bit of money if the longevity of what I do is going to be there. Like that's the thing is like how long do you think that's going to be able to last? Like
Well, it keeps changing, right? And that's the
exactly.
thing. That's why let's segue into the next question here, and for Doc Blaylock, we're going to start with you, buddy. So social media keeps changing. First, let me start by saying I didn't use Twitter before. But it seems like every year we talk about this great migration. Everybody's leaving. Back then it was everybody's leaving Facebook. But now they say things like, well, everybody's leaving Twitter and they're going to Blue Sky, or Threads is another one. I haven't done either of those, but I didn't do Twitter anyhow. What is your goal, Doc Blaylock, for 2025 for your social media?
Well, that is a good question. Twitter I use as nuts and bolts to work with the people that I collaborate with that I
What do you
work.
mean? What do you mean by that? Be a little bit more specific.
Well, I don't. I'm not marketing on Twitter much.
Oh,
It's
okay.
there, but like other artists that I do commission work for, writers that hire me, or other artists that I work with, we'll hang out. We share information. My publisher's on there, so that's where we drop the links for the shows. However, Facebook. Before I returned to doing comics, I'm a fine artist and I do impressionist landscape painting. And I would do a live paint every single Saturday. And I don't know why I stopped. I had, we're lucky if we get 40, 50 people watching a YouTube live stream. I'd have hundreds watching the live paints.
Wow.
Mhm.
Um, and I would stand back there and paint. My wife sat where I'm sitting right here and she would read the chat to me and I would talk to the chat while I painted.
Ah,
And,
neat.
and it was fun. It was great. Thinking about I'm sorry, let me finish that thought.
Mhm.
So that got me, well over 1,000. I think I'm close to 2,000 followers over there now. Thinking about expanding my comic book stuff over there, migrating it. I tried to keep the two separate. Fine art and personal is on Facebook. Business over on Twitter,
Okay.
and then the YouTube channel. It's not that I have a love-hate relationship with YouTube. Uh, I hate censorship in all of its forms. I'm
Yeah,
with Thomas.
you and I have talked about this. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a drag.
yeah, I'm with Thomas Jefferson. I have sworn eternal hostility toward every form of tyranny over the mind of man. But I watch YouTube instead of TV. I watch YouTube
Same.
instead of movies. There's channels that I'm devoted to. I watch everything they do,
Mhm.
and I enjoy being on there. We have a loyal but small, like Dan said, a loyal but small following over there, and I love them. So I do want to expand on that a little bit more. I was thinking of doing more than one show per week, uh, and just seeing how that goes. But mainly, I think my engagement is going to be take advantage of that big ass crowd I have developed on Facebook and really lean into that and use it and see what I can get out of that. Because I'll be honest with you, my fine art uh, for several years on Facebook, that was my bread and butter. I was selling paintings as fast as I could paint them, and it was because I was doing the live paints. So
Nice.
see if I can lean into that a little bit with the comic book stuff.
Well, I wish you every success with that strategy.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for you.
Well, hey, it's like everything else, right? The Martheus mentioned it earlier. Just about the time we try something new, it changes again. Dan
Mhm.
Barlow, what is on your radar for social media for 2025? First off, are you on Twitter? Were you involved in any of that?
Yeah, you know what? I'm on Twitter, but I never post anything on there. And every time I jump on Twitter, and it just seems like so much negative stuff pops up and crazy stuff, and I'm like, I know the world's a crazy place, but I want to try to ignore that
Mhm.
and just stick to my comic and my stories and everything like that. So I don't really do anything on Twitter. I'm still there, but it just seems like a dumpster fire of negativity and just crazy stuff. So I'm mostly on Facebook. I got my personal page. I got my Mind Grind Comics page. I do like Doc's idea of putting more comic related stuff on YouTube. I thought about doing that, like live streams of just me drawing and my process. I'm not convinced. I use conventional methods of doing comic art. I'm more a traditional artist. I'm not a digital artist. I'd like to learn digital, but I'm not right now. But one of the things I could do is just do some live streams and how I come up with page breakdowns and things like that. Some of the stuff that are my strengths. So that would be nice to dabble into this year and try to see if I can get some people to follow that.
Well, good luck with it, man. Good
Yeah,
luck.
thanks.
Martheus, your turn here. Social media 2025. What are you trying?
Well, I know my goal is to be able to kind of consolidate a little bit because I have a lot of social media pages out and I only use a couple of them. Like I don't use my Twitter page as much as I should, just because it is a toxic place and I don't like the negativity that's over there. I used to use my Facebook page a lot more to my personal Facebook page to promote my my comics and things like that. And for a time it worked out. But I think with the algorithm changes and things like that, as well as Facebook is skewing a lot older demographics now.
Yep.
And my comic book has been skewing a lot younger.
Yeah.
Unless the people there are buying for their kids, they usually not going to be buying. I still have my page that's dedicated specifically to the comic in our publishing studio, which is Toshigawa Universe. I still have that over there, and I still post there as well. But my following know me so personally almost that most of them the bigger page is my personal Facebook page. The problem is, like I said, is that a lot of people on my personal Facebook page are mixed between readers who look me up versus family members who know me by another name. It's so mixed up in there that it's hard to be able to
It
navigate.
is. You're right.
You need to be able to buy my book specifically. I'm talking to you, buy my book. So it's difficult. So what I've ended up doing is that I've moved a lot of my actual advertising to a younger audience on TikTok. So I moved over to there. I just now started a TikTok shop. I didn't really do the TikTok shop until like last week, actually. So our books are up over there. But mostly I have the TikTok page and I use most of my social media for awareness. So in 2025, I just want people to really be aware. You know what I mean? I want people to not have to ask where the book is, what I'm doing, or where they can find me. Like, I don't want them to have to know that. I want them to be able to say, oh, you can get the book here. He's going to be here and he's over here. You know what I mean? So, I want those things. That's my really big thing that I want to be able to do. So TikTok, though, it hits a younger audience.
That makes a lot of sense. They say a lot about how Facebook is, sort of aging out. You figure by most, I can remember the previous social media platforms, and they have never lasted as long as Facebook.
Right.
For example.
And I don't want people to think that it's aging out to where it's not going to be there. I think Facebook, Instagram, it's always going to be there, especially if this TikTok ban goes through.
Oh, right.
But if but it's skewing older. It's kind of almost like YouTube is skewing older, but with less time to be able to actually get to your target audience, because the attention span is a lot quicker. In TikTok, especially with lives and things like that, when people are just scrolling through the lives and they say, oh, a guy's drawing, I want to check this out for a little bit. Like last week I tried it out for the very first time, and that was just me drawing for an hour, talking to people, answering questions and things like that on TikTok. And I had like 1,000 people just come through and view my stuff.
That's a pretty good showing.
Yeah, I had about
that's a very good showing.
People come in and go like, oh man, this is pretty cool, you know what I mean, and ask me questions and things like that. And it's quick. They may not stay very long, but that is an impression that you make on somebody, that they could come back to you. They could hit the follow button real quick, or you can add your link down there to your live to go to the TikTok shop.
I'm hearing a lot of love for TikTok and moving to the younger. I have tried that, but I haven't had too much success. Let's move this over to Dr. Richard Olson. Yeah, it's a good one. I wish I could get 1,000.
Yeah.
Dr. Richard Olson, how about you? Social media. First of all, were you Twitter? Are you canceling? And what is your 2025 social media?
Well, I guess I've used X for the last year. I wasn't even sure Twitter really existed per se. So are we?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I still say Twitter. It's
okay. Well, I was being simple, but Z for Zorro and X for X. I've been hitting X quite a bit. Even you can put like wisdom sayings. You can post your book. You can also kind of watch other people's shows and sit in and kind of moderate it. And whoever's watching the show sees you as a co-moderator. So X has been very good for me. I've probably grown to 500 followers in 6 months, so that's off to a really good start.
How many?
500 followers plus, just in less than half a year.
Good. Yeah.
It's grassroots, but like I said, I don't always market myself. I put cute little sayings or wisdom sayings or something like that. Facebook's always going to be there. I've got 4,000 or 5,000 friends and 3 Facebook.
Let me ask you. Hold on. Do you mind if I stop you for just a second, Doctor?
Maybe even 2 seconds.
I'm going to stop you because Marthea said that also. I know Facebook is always going to be there. And I'm only chiming in because I almost 100% disagree with this statement. I'd like to hear you say why you feel it's always going to be there.
Well, always going to be there means only up to maybe 20 years in my book. It doesn't mean hundreds of years to define. Yeah. I think it's just a sheer volume and a way of life that the next generation is probably going to follow, and the generation below that might not follow. So 20 years could be a guess on why it's going to be there. But things switch. We got Rumble or whatever you want to switch to.
Do you guys remember MySpace? It was the
You
largest
made me
social
think of
media
that.
site on the
Oh yeah.
planet.
You
Yeah.
made me think of MySpace, and I never did MySpace. My wife and her friends all did MySpace. Let's see, where was I at? Okay, organically, I'm trying to really build my website and get more active followers to your website, and blogs will post your website organically.
Okay, hold on. I got a question about that too. So you say your website, you have some blog content there?
Yes.
Okay. So is it something where customers follow you every week? How often for a new article?
I try to have a really great monthly article with jokes of the month, and I pick one of the characters and have a seasonal saying. So that's really fun. And then maybe once in a while a book comes out, I have an extra one, but I don't want to be one of those guys that emails you 4 times a day for some things, so to speak. But I think building your website's really good. You can even go to conventions, the QR code. But every time you do a blog on Facebook, literally sometimes a couple other people I don't even know see the blog. I mean, it's just amazing how it just pops out there of non-existence. And then, like I said, my publisher does a lot of the organic marketing, so I don't. Their plan's kind of my plan. Every time a book comes out, there's a pre-launch and a 30-day follow-up and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, by the way, I like that idea. That's why I stopped you, because one of the things about, how do I want to say this? The thing about getting people to follow your website, it's a plus and a minus. The minus is it's not going to be as many people, but the plus is it's people that are more inclined to buy something from you, and your conversion is going to be much higher.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll touch on that in the next round of questions.
Let me add one last
go ahead.
thing. As a doctor, you lose about 10% of your patients every month. So a newsletter is called Touching Your Herd. Just letting people see your name, remember who you are. Maybe I haven't read one of his books for a while, or haven't been to see him. So touching your herd every month is very important, whether you do in different ways. That's, I think, the value of the newsletter.
Okay, well said. I buy that. I'm a newsletter guy, but I'm a Substacker. But I'm gonna. It's not about me. We'll save that. Let's move over to Robbie J. Atkinson. We're going to talk a little bit about what she's going to do for social media for 2025. Lay it on us.
So we were never really active on Twitter. We're all over social media. I found more interaction through Threads, honestly.
You like it? Do you like Threads so far?
I do. At first, when I first started, it felt awkward because you're posting and you're not really getting any reactions. But once you get an audience, once you have people who kind of have eyes on your account, then you start getting more visibility, you start getting more organic interaction. I still like Facebook though, because Facebook is really good for convention groups. A lot of events around Atlanta, they always use Facebook to kind of gather those clumps and groups of people. So I do find it useful for that purpose. Instagram is really where our home crowd is. That's where I'm able to do very creative and interactive stories. And I'm going to continue doing that. I just have to find new ways to keep the audience engaged, from like quizzes to polls to which character do you like, what aesthetic do you like from which kingdom, to really build lore and kind of build the fan base and keep them engaged. I would say TikTok is really good because that has helped us with, I would say, with reach and with advertising, because advertising on TikTok was for me personally always a lot easier than advertising on, say, Instagram and Facebook. I always got a better response. We always got like a surge in followers. And then I would say TikTok is where I put a lot more work into putting out like informational videos about the book, and that's where people ask more questions, they leave more comments, and then that's also where I've had more sales from TikTok than, say, from Instagram. And really just like doubling down on Instagram a little bit more, so that by the end of this year, towards like next year, we can, because we started our Instagram, everything we started this year, and Instagram's almost at 1K, TikTok is almost at 1K, Threads is still like 150, but I think social media has been our marketing strategy, aside from physical in-person like paper advertising, conventions, things like that. So I think I'm going to continue. Nice.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Just on the tail end of the conversation, I wanted to drop this graphic. So what you're going to see us doing over here, I talked to Doc Blaylock about this, which is curated content, which we do a comic makers show. We do a ghost sightings podcast. And the most popular one is the UFO podcast, which seems to be kind of running away with it. So that's what we came up with, and that's what we're trying. And also, I'm an avid Substacker. I was mentioning that because it seems like that could also be useful for Dr. Richard Olson.
All right.
We talk a little bit about, it's a little bit about making a deposit, providing content for the end user in the hopes that when you come to ask for the withdrawal, meaning, hey, I want you to buy my book, they already have a little bit of, they've seen some of your free content. I did have one question left. You guys are doing so good on the answers that I didn't want to cut anything off. Do you guys have time for one more?
Sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because we really didn't get to conventions. So what we'll do is we're going to go about 12 minutes over. So in this one, we're going to talk about conventions. Maybe in this case, what you would do different or what the goal is for conventions. Like, for example, for mine, I've talked a couple of times on the air about this. I try to be invited as a guest by providing some service. Sometimes it's a free prize to a convention. Sometimes we do like a scavenger hunt. But anything that helps to defray some of the costs that quickly run up when you do a convention. So my deal is I try to be a guest. Doc Blaylock, let's start with you. What is your goal for conventions? And it doesn't have to be something that you haven't tried before. It could be a number. I'm going to do 10 this year, whatever. But what is the convention goal for Doc Blaylock for 2025?
One word: more.
More. Okay, so now to you, what's more? I think this year, I did 10, and it felt like a lot.
Well, I did a ball busting 0 last year, so more. I haven't done
Anything more than 0?
Yeah, anything.
Plus one.
more than 0. I haven't done conventions in a while. I'm not the healthiest guy in the world, so I try to be sparing with my energy.
Oh, gotcha. But first up, do you enjoy them? Do you enjoy the convention scene?
I enjoy them in the same way that I enjoyed my work when I was a counselor. I like being there. I don't like going there. I don't like going to work. I like being at work. I don't like going to conventions, but once I'm there, I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well said. And you said you're trying to stick local, right?
Yeah, I'll do some local stuff, and I had an invite to come up to a comic book shop. If we buy your retailer tier, will you come up here for a couple of days and do signings and whatever? And honestly, I turned that down. You're going to hit me for one retailer tier, which is not that much money, and I'll spend more than that in the hotel to stay up there overnight.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, if
to
they're
be
not
there for a
company of the
couple of days.
hotel, sure, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
if you're not going to make it worth my time, then no, I'm not going to do that. At this point, money is always valuable. My time is even more valuable because every day I have less of it.
Mm-hmm.
This is I love that subject, Doc, and you and I have talked about this in the past. Like, we get it that, how do I want to say this? There's a dollar cost for marketing, but it's about the value that you get back. So we know that we have to be on the convention circuit because that's how we meet all these great new customers.
Mhm.
But if we took that same amount of money and we spent it on a billboard, right? Like, where's the return? The truth is in the middle somewhere, like all the things.
Right.
It's what I like to call the grief to dollar ratio.
Yes.
What's that grief to dollar
Grief
ratio?
to dollar, yeah.
I compare it to this, and then I'll hand it off. As a fine artist, I would do gallery openings and be the spotlight artist, whatever it might be. And you would be lucky after you travel so far to be there. You're there all damn evening into the wee hours, and you go home, and you're lucky if you sell a painting. Versus go live on Facebook, do a live paint, sell 1 or 2 paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And I never had to leave my studio. It's the
Yeah.
same kind of thing here. Hey, what's up, Dark Gift? My publisher, Anthony Romano, in the chat. Good to see you, buddy.
Nice. Welcome. Thanks for coming. So, Dan, let's move this one over to you. Conventions for 2025. What is your goal?
Right. So you guys touched on value. So that's why I mostly stick to local. If I can drive there and it doesn't take that long to get there, and that means I'm driving home that night instead of paying for a hotel and whatnot. Because when I started publishing my own stuff 2 years ago, I didn't have much product to offer. So it didn't really make sense to, get a $200 table and a hotel and stuff. And, I might sell a whopping 10 copies that weekend or whatever because I'm unknown and my product's unknown.
Right.
2 years later, I have, about 6, 7 books little bit more to offer. I'm going to put out a trade collecting the first 3 or 4 issues of my series. So I have a little bit more to offer, but still, I think I'm going to stick to the local circuit unless somebody calls me and wants me to be a guest. Hey, I'll put my number in the chat or something. But anyways,
Dan, real quick, so you're selling all original IP stuff, right?
yes.
It's your own characters, your own stories. Do you do anything like prints or anything other than all original stuff?
No, I have talked to another publisher, a couple hours up the road from me, who wants me to do some work for them. So,
well, I meant like if you're at a convention, you're not selling any kind of Batman prints or anything.
No, I'm
it's
not.
all your stuff.
I'm not one of those. I'm not an artist that will have prints at my display. That's just not my thing.
By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I totally get it. That's how artists make money. Yeah. I 100% understand that. That's why I was asking you.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the things, if you're like I'm strictly writer, so I always got to come up with an angle.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I just.
Oh no problem. So yeah, so you know what? I'm aware of my budget. I know that it seems like comic book sales have been less over the last year, and hopefully it doesn't continue to decline in comic book sales across the board for everybody. So that's why I don't want to put too much money into it, and I'm not dipping into my personal account. I'm trying to let this breathe on its own, fund itself.
Okay.
And so when I'm doing the small circuit, or even at a local church, or I know some people normally have, at the BFW, they'll have a comic book show that day. That's normally the kind of shows you can hit and meet and greet. Even if you just meet 5 to 10 people, in my mind, that's a success because you're continuing to build your audience. So that's why I'm thinking I'm going to do that. So this year at the big show in Dayton, I have a comic I put out last year. It's a superhero book that takes place in Dayton. So one of the pages for the second issue is going to have the Dayton Comic Book Convention in the background. So that might be one of the things I can try to sell when they come, because normally people's ears perk up when I say, "Hey, here's a comic book about a superhero that takes place in Dayton." And I draw a lot of landmarks and stuff around town that people can relate to. Oh, okay, that's the town hall. I know that building, or things like that. So, yeah, I just keep it local. And if for some reason there's sales increase in the amount of books I'm selling, I'll entertain going out of state. Wouldn't be bad, but I've done it before. Back in the '90s, I was in Chicago. I did
come over to Pennsylvania. We got Harrisburg and Baltimore. You're not too well. No, if you're where in Ohio, you're Ohio, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Dayton. I'm just an hour north of Cincinnati.
That's probably 7 hours or 8 hours driving.
Yeah, I mean, I do it if I knew somebody out there, and they'd be like, "Hey, you can crash on the couch."
Yeah, you crash on my couch, man. York, Pennsylvania.
All right, sounds good.
We'll drive down to Baltimore. We'll drive down to Baltimore.
Sounds good. Hey, I'll do it. I'm crazy. So, but yeah, I'll try to keep aware of my funds and keep it local right now.
Well, it sounds like you're doing it a pretty smart way, real quick, we got a pretty cool comment there. How does networking value factor in? Because that's a really good point about conventions. It isn't 100% about sales. Martheus, do you want to take that question? How do you feel about networking value at conventions?
Man, I think networking, depending on the convention that you're at, can be a little bit more important than actually the sales. I went to at the times when I went to San Diego Comic-Con for 5 years. I had a booth there for 5 years. I split it with another artist, and Adam Shaw. And both of us were, we're really cool friends. And he was with Image and I was with Shooting Star. So, and both of them had their own. Image had their own booth, of course, and Shooting Star had their own booth. So we were both doing signings at their booths. So we were like, all right, let's get a table. He had already had a table years ago. We just upsized it and both of us split the cost. The cool thing about that was not the sales, because the expense that you put in going to San Diego Comic-Con after the booth after the getting there and the hotel and eating, it's pretty substantial. Even back then when I was doing that. So I sold out of all the books and things that I brought. Books, I brought original pages. I didn't sell out all of them, but I did pretty well. I didn't make a dent in what I spent.
Right.
The problem, but I will say, I got a chance to meet with producers, movie producers. We got our first option off of that. I met with toy people. I met with IDW. I got my first actual gig with IDW based off of that. So the networking can be very, very, very worthwhile.
Yeah, a tough thing to put a dollar value on.
It's tough. It's just what you can be able to do. You know what I mean? This year we're going back to San Diego Comic-Con. I'm not having a booth, but I am trying to set up meetings. So the networking value of me going there, and it's still I don't have a booth, but it's still money. It's still worth me being able to, you know, go to conventions and stuff, like go to conventions that may be a little bit more high dollar. We do local conventions, but we also do conventions out of town. Like I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, and we have 3 really big conventions in Memphis, and I do them. I do Anime Blues Con here in Memphis. I do Memphis Comic Expo here in Memphis, and I also do Memphis Japan Fest. And all 3 of those, we've been fortunate to be able to do really, really well at all 3 of those conventions. I've also done Nashville Cherry Blossom Festival. I've also done I've done C2E2 before, and and I've done Lexington Comic and Toy Convention.
So you got a pretty busy convention.
Yeah, and I used to do the Wizard Worlds when they were in Chicago. And we've just been fortunate to be able to do really well. Now, the problem is just that the further out you go, the more money it's going to be. So how does that really equal out to you? You know what I'm saying? So
how do you make it work?
Right.
That grief to dollar ratio.
Right. That grief.
Exactly. I love that phrase, by the way.
Listen, I put that into my lexicon. It's there. Thank you, my brother.
Use it, man.
You got it.
It's always in the back of my head, grief to dollar ratio. So we're still doing all those conventions next year in 2025. We used to do Superman Celebration as well. You wouldn't expect us to sell well at Superman Celebration, but we sold our comic book and graphic novel well at Superman Celebration. So
I agree that networking is. It seems like I'm always the naysayer on this panel tonight. I agree networking is valuable, but I wouldn't say it's priceless. I'd say it's useful, but it's certainly you could make your way without it. Dr. Richard Olson, how about you? Conventions 2025. What do you got on the roster?
Well, probably 6 or so true conventions. The Windy City Pulp Con in Chicago is the second biggest paperback pulp convention in the world. That's 3 hours away. There's what they call Peoria Con, Illinois Con, and then Quad Cities on Iowa has a Quad Con. They're every month in cities in the Midwest. They're actually very valuable. Another reason to go to conventions, I think, is to recreate your enthusiasm, kind of re-stimulate yourself too. You see, people you see once a year, it brings you up, So I think actually to rekindle yourself and enthusiasm is a good part of conventions also.
How many? Can I ask you how many do you do in a year?
Well, that's why I said what I said. I do about 6 or so true conventions a year, but then I might do another 6 to 10 book shows at bookstores or different places. I'm actually at Northwoods Mall tomorrow, the biggest mall in the area, and it's actually for a baseball card convention. They let me in as an author, and that's a gold mine this Saturday before Christmas at the biggest mall in Central Illinois. So that's a gold mine there. But the caveat of it all is I actually met my publisher at a convention. They kind of met me and liked the way I talked, and I had one book out. They said, give us 6,000 word short story for a magazine, and they loved it. And I got a true publisher for that. So that's an A+ for going to convention.
Well, and thanks for sharing that, because there's an example where networking
Paid
really
off.
had a positive thing. And I didn't mean to. I'm a very positive fella. I didn't mean to
Yeah,
seem
sure.
negative. But we often say things like, "Well, networking is so blah blah blah," and it would be fair to say to you guys that I've met thousands of people in the comics business, and it isn't exactly like a warm rain of hookups happening to me.
Not
No.
always.
But you
And-
gotta also think too. You gotta think of what that networking, who you're networking with. Like I learned a long time ago that if you go, say if you are an artist and you're trying to break into like DC Comics or something like that, if you talk to another artist, it's great to get their ideas and their contacts and and stuff like that. But you really shouldn't be talking to the artist. You need to be talking to the editors.
Editor, yeah.
There's-
So
Yeah,
like,
I agree with that. And
can
go ahead,
network
Dr.
all-
Richard. Go ahead. You take this one.
yeah,
I'm taking this one.
Yeah.
Yes, going to the editors is good. The artists are a waylay to hierarchy, so to speak. But yeah, if you get me the editors or producers, that's going to be your bread and butter, obviously. Hit a higher level. So I think they're part of a mainstay. I think you really have to do a certain amount of conventions a year as a necessity, and don't base everything on just conventions. Is kind of my bottom line. But they've been some big home runs for me. So do them, but don't burn yourself out them, and have lots of fun. There you go.
That's great advice. That's great advice. So, Robbie J. Atkinson, you're going to have the last word on this subject, which is conventions in 2025.
Give her a drum roll.
Yeah. What is your schedule going to look like?
Yes, so I'm looking into mostly Atlanta ones. I have a few online ones. Gen X Comic Con was one we did earlier this year. We did about three. No, we did about three this year. Gen X Comic Con. I was invited to Shao Kahn, which was actually founded by the voice actor behind the character Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat. I was a panelist this year.
Nice.
And then we were also at Anime Weekend Atlanta, and we'll be doing all of those again, in addition to more. I second that motion to stay as local as possible. For me, though, I think for the sake of also expanding the fan base for the series, I'm interested in, even if I'm staying in the East Coast, going up to New York, because I know New York's fan base for manga and anime tends to respond a little bit differently. I also say that networking is very much about numbers and strategy, in the sense of like, I like conventions because it gives you access to more people. And if you are strategic with who you talk to, then you can, in fact, get more avenues. In which case, it can be completely and utterly useless if you talk to a whole bunch of people, like Marthia said, that don't really do anything for you. But it's also very useful if you know to talk to the right people, ask the right questions, and follow up. Most people lack all of that. So that's where sometimes that problem comes in. But conventions are a must for me.
That's a good answer. Thank you for that one.
Thank you, thank you. Conventions are a must for me, though, because this is also where you talked about IP. Because the Seventh Kingdom is a series where we are making the buttons, we're making the posters, we're making the stickers. I literally have a sticker maker machine. I have the laminate, I have everything. So for me, when I go to conventions, I have a lot of intellectual property that I can actually sell. And even if someone does not necessarily want to order the manga, the right aesthetic and design on the IP may attract different intersecting interests, even if they don't want the manga itself. So I utilize them for that purpose as well, as a catch-all.
Nice, nice. And so roughly how many appearances a year do you think you will do in 2025?
Ooh, this year I'm aiming for at least 8.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Mhm.
Yeah, good deal, good deal. Well, thanks, panel, for taking some extra time to go over that question. The answers have been really great, so I wanted to keep going. But let's hear a little bit about what you guys are making. You want to do that? So let's switch right over to Doc Blaylock. You're going to go first. A Damn Dirty Thing, a Pariah Story from Dark Gift Comics.
Indeed. So this is the story of Jake Bishop. And just very quickly, Jake Bishop is not my first book in the indie sphere. Pariah Blood and Mud was. The sequel to
I remember that one.
Yeah, the sequel to Pariah Blood and Mud featured this character, Jake Bishop. And it occurred to me, he's just such a cool character. He needs his own little backstory so people can get to know him before they run across him in the next Pariah book. I have always been in love with noir. I love the old movies. I love the books. So Jake Bishop is my love letter to that. Jake Bishop in A Damn Dirty Thing is on the trail of the mob boss who bombed his office, killing his partner and his secretary. He's joined by a mysterious temptress, Portia Vance, as they track down Vito Morelli. And there is the 20 or 22 page comic book, and then about 116 page novella. Also on this campaign, you can get the comic book for $7. You can get the novella for $9. You can't beat that with a cookie.
What a deal. It's a call to action. That's on Fund My Comic right now, yes?
It is funding on Fund My Comic. Now we've got some stretch goals on there. One of them is to when we get to $4,000, we're going to do an audio book
Cool.
with some of the best voice talent. It'll almost be, what's the word I'm looking for here? More of a audio drama than
Nice.
a audiobook.
Like a radio play.
Yeah. And that came about because I was narrating the book in the voice of Jake Bishop, because it's first person present tense.
Nice.
But it came time to do the women's voices, and I don't know if you're aware, but I don't have a very feminine voice.
No.
You can do it.
So I couldn't sell that one. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's if you scroll down for me there, Timothy, there's at the very bottom, there's Jake Bishop's business card. All the way on down.
Some good looking pages.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a cool page there. Keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the pariah stuff. And then right there, that's Jake Bishop's business card. That is a working phone number you can call, and Jake Bishop's answering machine is going to pick up, and you can leave Jake Bishop a
That's pretty
message
I'm dialing right now.
to take a case or leave some kind of crack comment. Yeah, the book is currently shipping.
Currently shipping. If you back it now, you'll get it now. That's some quality marketing right there. You got a good publisher.
Yeah. And we are going to, when we get to funded goal, we're going to go through, listen to all of them live on Anthony's channel, Dark Gift Comics Presents, and we're going to pick a winner, and they're going to get a nice little freebie.
Nice.
So don't dox yourself when you call, but let us know who you are so we know how to reach you if you win something.
Nice.
But
nice.
the cool part of that is that actual business card. Everybody gets one of those with every purchase. It's a actual prop right out of the comic book. Old coffee stained, where he scribbled a time to meet Portia Vance.
Nice. Very
Sweet.
clever.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, that's a very nice touch. Very nice touch.
Thank you.
Let's see, what do we got next? We'll go a little bit out of order. This will be Toshigawa Universe. You should be able to see it right now. So, Martheus, tell us a little bit about who will love this project. Give us an elevator pitch.
All right. So the elevator pitch is essentially the Toshigawa universe is a universe of ninjas, martial artists, and they fight. When they're not fighting each other, they're fighting Oni. So essentially, you see some of my artwork there. They for the books. Essentially, our books are we have books from all ages, which is the Shinobi Ninja Princess hardcover book that you scrolled past there for a second. And then the young adult book, which is Jetta Tales of the Toshigawa series, and their graphic novels. And then we have for the adults, like we have the Ready to Spar books 1, and we're actually doing a pre-order for book 2 now. And what we end up doing is that is all in the same line, the same world, and the same universe. Jetta Tales of the Toshigawa, the main character throughout the whole Toshigawa universe is Shiandria Toshigawa. She is the chosen one, the leader of the Toshigawa ninja clan, and she's the one that's leading all of these warriors against her father, which is the emperor of Japan. He has actually taken over Japan, and he's thrown it back into kind of like this feudal state. And she is actually in America training to take back Japan. What she doesn't know is that she's also fighting so that he doesn't actually take over the world with his demon army. So that's essentially the elevator pitch for the Toshigawa universe. They're all of our merchandise and stuff on there. We have apparel, we have artwork that's on there, and we every book that's sold, every graphic novel that's sold on there comes with a bookmark. So yeah, that's us.
Yeah, man, what a
Looks
great looking
good.
project. Yeah, I wish you every success with that
Mhm.
project. I've
Mhm.
been following Marthea since I learned about him through Aaron.
After 25 years, how many issues do you have out?
So we actually did started out a little bit different. We started out as graphic novels.
Okay.
I have 5 graphic novels that are actually out from that previous line, and then we rebooted after Shinobi Ninja Princess. So what we ended up doing was we had a pretty much a 90s comic era, and that's all that original graphic novel. And then we hit Shinobi Ninja Princess. I had a kid. I got married.
Thank you.
Things were completely kind of like, insane. And I went through this father era, which I'm in now. And I was just like, man, I got to have something. I would kind of panic. I was like, I got to have something to give to my child.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing Shinobi Ninja Princess, man. And it went over like gangbusters. And a lot of people were just kind of like, wow, we like that from you as opposed to this stuff. So
yeah.
what we did was we took the concept and we actually ended up once we got away from Action Lab, we actually ended up doing like Jetta, it's like Shinobi, it's like Shiandria, Tales of the Toshigawa, which is the continuation of the Shinobi Ninja Princess stuff. And then we took that and we rebooted the old 90s stuff, which is what you see on there. The Jetta Tales of the Toshigawa stuff is the rebooted stuff. A little bit more sensibilities of nowadays, being able to kind of like bridge the gap between the Shinobi world that was, the Shiandra Tales of the Toshigawa that is now, and the Jetta stuff that is currently going on. So it's kind of like making it all kind of a cohesive package in a cohesive universe.
You got a big universe there.
Yeah, so you can jump in from one point to another point to another point. And if you haven't read the old stuff, it's fine. You know what I mean? You can just be able to jump in where you can fit in.
Sure.
Press the X in the top right corner there so you can X out of that ad.
The X. Okay, let's see. So we're going to hear a little bit here about the 7th. I'll tell you what, I'll let you do the talking there.
Yeah, so, the Seventh Kingdom, Fukushino Okoku. So this is for sci-fi fantasy lovers out there. If you liked Akira, if you like Outlaw Star, Cowboy Bebop, they're going to like the series. This is essentially a story of revenge and redemption. A sheltered young woman goes on a dangerous journey of revenge against a powerful foe named the Seventh Kingdom following the decimation of her village. And as she amasses a team to challenge them, she collides with dark revelations that actually threaten to shatter her world even more. And this is a series that, has cyberpunk and solar punk aesthetics in it. The Tagline 9, the independent manga studio that illustrates it in tangent with my company, their lead illustrator actually worked under Shonen Jump for a little bit, which is a company behind Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, things like that.
Sure.
So,
big name.
Yes, they're incredibly talented. And it's just a really rich world for those who love world building and lore. There's a lot to dive into here. So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wishing you all the success with this project too. Yeah, we got some great projects tonight, man.
Thank you.
Let's see. Did we get Richard? I didn't. One second. Talk amongst yourselves while I find my link.
I have 2 very quick questions for you.
Sure, go ahead. I'm getting a link
Rick.
not found, a site not found on your link, Richard.
Yeah, I was having trouble with that. I did send you a couple pictures, but by some reason my website will not pop up on links. I tried doing an Amazon link, and currently.
Well, tell you what. Why don't you tell us where we can find you? We'll do that because we're.
Well, on Amazon, it's Dr. Richard A. OLSON.com. Venture Press is also my publisher. I thought I sent you a couple pictures. One would be a collage. I could kind of talk about.
It'd have to be available through that private chat you see in the right-hand side there.
Oh, I messaged them to you earlier. Well, I
don't have a way. I don't have a way to bring those up though.
No, that's fine.
If you can convert them to a PDF, if you want.
Well, my website is it's basically my name, drrichardaolson.com. And again, we have blogs and a really fun monthly newsletter. You can find me at both Venture Press or my publisher. And Dr. Richard A. Olson, author, is my Facebook page. It's kind of always fun to keep part of that. So it's pretty easy to find me, and you can do the old-fashioned thing. You just Google my name, Dr. Richard A. Olson, and you'll come up with all kinds of stuff on there, which means my different titles, speeches, lectures, newspaper articles, TV appearances, things like that. So if you want to do some homework, you can check me out and make sure you share this and make Tim's channel grow and grow, right?
Hey, thanks very much. I appreciate that. I've had some great guests here tonight. So let's see. So we heard where we can find Richard. Why don't we quick go around, just say one final word where we can find you?
Have we touched on Dan's project yet?
Dan, do I have a link for you?
No, I'm sorry. I did. I should have sent you that trailer I did last night.
Listen, it's fine, because if you just want to tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, you know what? You can go on Facebook. You can find me at Mind Grind Comics. Real quick, this is the last issue, number 4 of Devil's Contract.
Here you go. You ready for this? Take the solo spot. There you go.
There you go. So that's the front cover. That was a tribute to Jim Lee, X-Men. I just finished issue 5 this week. So that's going to be the next campaign. And with it, there's an extra book I did. It's a character Bible, kind of like the old DC Who's Who and Marvel Universe. Yeah. And so it just kind of gives a little bit more insight to all the characters, because the Devil's Contract is about a bunch of mercenaries hired to take on monsters, track down werewolves and vampires. And some of the mercenaries have special abilities. And they all got code names after the holidays. You got Mr. Christmas, the Halloween Man, the 4th,
nice,
Easter, all that.
And you and I've got to work on a special episode about comics and pinball machines.
Yes. So we're going to do that. And then, so 2025, you're going to see about 5 books come out from me. And wow. Some of them's already done in the can. So, and plus my first trade of the Devil's Contract. So it's going to be a busy year. It's going to be fun. So nice. Check it out. Mind Grind Comics at Facebook.
Well, I want to say to you guys, this panel did a terrific job tonight with these questions, and I felt there were some really good answers, and I hope that it is useful to the viewers and to the other comic making people in some way. So to the people at home, thanks for watching, and to the rest of you guys, I'll see you next Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for watching the Creative Cranium.
Later.